I'm gonna show you how you go from this to this, from this to this, and how about from this to this. And this has all to do with lighting, and not so much a fancy camera or some fancy lenses, which obviously it does help, but it's all about lighting and using the right lighting for what it is that you want to do. And the first one that I want to talk to you is this G200 light, because believe it or not, this is a 200 watt and it has a max setting that you can go up to 300 watts. And look, 300 watt lights, they are a lot bigger than this, and even 200 watt lights, they are much bigger than this. I like the fact that there is a glass that protects the light from getting damaged. It has a CRI rating of 95%, which is great because anything between 95 and 100% means that the light is color accurate. When you use the ballast that comes with and you dim it up and down, it's color accurate from 1 to 100. And look at the size of the ballast. It's very lightweight. The build is really good. It's really solid. It's really easy to adjust from 0 to 100. This is bi-color as well, so you can change from tungsten to daylight super easy. And what's so great about this light is that if, for instance, you're running a YouTube setup like this, or you are doing any type of client work, you can control all of the lights remotely from within the Zhiyun app, because it can be a real pain if you have to stand up and having to be tweaking all the lights constantly, because it does take time sometimes to set up and get to the right settings. Whereas here, you can control everything from within the app itself. I mean, you can turn the lights on and off, you can reduce the brightness all the way to 0 up to 100, you can bring it up to what it was before. And the beauty of this is that you can control all of the Zhiyun lights from within the same app. And it's not like they are very loud, because, for instance, I'm using this G200 at 42% and you can't hear it. And even if I crank it up all the way up to 80%, you can't hear a thing. Even if I go up to 100%, you can't hear it. And especially if you're recording audio with a microphone at a certain distance, you're not gonna pick up. Only if I engage the max mode at 300 watts, you now start hearing the fan in the background. But that might be something that you only need to dial in for a particular shot for a very brief amount of time. Maybe you're doing some product photography or something that doesn't require a microphone. And this is the setup that I have for my studio. I usually have a G200 as my key light, but I'm using now an X100 because I happen to be filming a section of this particular video with the X100 as the key light. And I always have a 90D parabolic softbox with a honeycomb or the grid. I have a tube light as my rim light, which again, I'm hanging everything from a rig with auto poles. And I will leave a link to that video where I show you how I set up this whole studio step by step at the end of this video. But I also have this Zhiyun M20C set up in a way so that it's only lighting the shoulder and the side of my face, and I can control that with these bundles, and this is fantastic, so I don't have the light spilling all over the room. And I usually also have a G200 with a projector and a lens with a gobbo projecting onto the back of the room. As my fill light, I use an old-ish 1x1 LED panel with a softbox. It would make sense to use the G200 as the key light and the X100 as the fill light because it's a lot lower wattage. But the X100, even at 1%, is too strong. And what's so great about these lights is that you have a standard Bowens mount. So you can use pretty much any lighting modifier that you can think of. So this is the standard reflector that comes with a light. And what I'm using now is the softbox with a honeycomb or a grid. And what this does is it directs the light very much onto me and not so much spills all over the room. And this is now the softbox, but with no honeycomb or grid. And as you can clearly see, the effect is very different because now the light is spilling a lot more into the room and I cannot control it so much. But if on the other hand you want to use a lantern, that's going to give you a very different look because a lantern is a very different softbox. And as you can clearly see here, the light spills all over the room, whereas a parabolic softbox
it's much more directed onto a specific spot or subject. And the lantern is actually a very good softbox if you have shots like this one, where I want the outside of the window to be part of the shot. I don't want it to be blown out as if I was to be exposing to the interior. So what I would do in a situation like this is I start exposing to the window, make sure that the window is correctly exposed, and then I bring my light all the way up to whenever I think that I'm correctly exposed. And now, not only I can see myself, but I can also see the rest of the room. And as you can clearly see, there is no one softbox that is better than the other for everything. Each of them have a time and a place.
And this is also really lightweight for what a 200 watt light used to be. I've taken it on location, even to a warehouse where I was doing a photo shoot and some video filming in a airplane hangar. And these lights were amazing. I didn't have to struggle with light, even though the place was absolutely massive. I wish they had a V-mount plate or some sort of battery plate that you could attach to this ballast and run it on location, because it's such a good light. So this is pretty much a studio light, unless you have a means to power this on location, which most people are not going to be able to do it. But if you want a light that is portable, that you can take on location, this X100 is really nice. 100 watts. Look at the size of this, it's tiny. Obviously, this light gives you something that the G200 doesn't give you, which is the ability to power the light with a battery, just like this. You can see how simple it is to put the battery on and take it off. This battery will give you about an hour if you are running the light at full power, or around 3 to 4 hours if you're running this light at around anywhere between 10 and 30%. Anything below 10%, sometimes the color accuracy is not quite there. When you are at 5, 6, 7%, suddenly you get a jump in intensity and a change in color temperature.
One of the things that I use the X100 a lot is for overhead photography, and this is the setup that I usually have. And as you can clearly see here, I've got it overhanging from my Autopole rig, and I also have my M20C as a ring light, and it works really nice because of the bundles. I can narrow down the bin. And I also have these little small RGB lights from Viltrox that sometimes I also use, and again I can control them through an app. I can choose whether I want the light further up or further down. The M20CS on this stand with this extension pole, that I can direct it and keep it out of frame. And it just works really well.
You have also the protection so that you don't damage light, and the controllers are really good quality.
And one thing that you're gonna notice is how lightweight this is. This weighs nothing. And taking in consideration that it's a 100 watt, and the fact that you can power this through a battery, this is perfect for traveling. It also comes with its very own set of lighting modifiers with this proprietary mount that Zhiyun has. And you can also have this mini micro softbox, which is great if you want to get some quick shots. Maybe you need some additional kick, and you can just have something really quick for your videos. Just like that. You mount this on a stand and you can create some really nice looking shots. But not only that, but it also comes with this adapter to attach standard Bowens mounts, softboxes and other accessories.
This is the effect that I get with my G200 using the parabolic softbox with the honeycomb. And this is now the X100 with the same softbox and honeycomb as I had with the G200. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear what you guys have to say and whether you can tell any difference between this light and the G200. This is a great light if you're doing indoors and outdoors, and maybe you take it to client work and you want to have that flexibility of a 200 watt that can go up to 300 watt. But if all you do is YouTube in your studio, this is all you're ever gonna need. And this one, the Zhiyun M20C. This is a great little light because it comes in a frame that you can take out if you want. This is how small and little this light is, but you can then clamp it onto this frame, and this is where the magic happens, because this is a magnetic frame. So for instance, you got your soft light already, you got an additional diffuser here, and what is great about this light is that it has a honeycomb, so you can control the light. So rather than having the light flooding all over, the honeycomb directs the light. And on top of that, you got this band door setup that again is magnetic, and you can narrow down the beam exactly what I wanted without spilling the light everywhere.
And I keep this light in my camera bag now all the time because it's so tiny, it's really functional, and if I wanted to travel, the X100 and the M20C are all the time with me because they run on batteries and they are really helpful. And let's say that I am in, I don't know, some rustic farm in Italy or in Spain, and I want a little bit of light. I could have the X100 with the softbox as the key light, and this one as my ring light, and I would get some amazing images.
I love the bundles. You're not gonna find anything in the market, as far as I'm aware, with this build quality. And again, it's bicolor, RGB. You can have it on top of your camera as a top light, but also I have it mounted slightly off camera. And if I turn it on, look, I get this rim light, okay, around my shoulder and on the side of my face. And obviously what I can do is I can make those twig lights the ones that instigate the color. So rather than have it tungsten, I can go into the RGB or HSI section and make it look like, for instance, is more yellowy, the sort of a color that I'm getting from the lights. And you can clearly see the effect here if I turn it off and I turn it on. And that's all you need sometimes, is a tiny bit of additional light to give you a bit more three-dimensional, a bit more depth onto an image. These lights are very lightweight. This weighs nothing. This, for a 200-watt light, this is nothing. You can mount this anywhere. If you want to see how I set up my studio with these lights and how I got this look, just click on this video here where I show you step by step how I do it in less than 15 minutes.